Don't be shy. If you want to share your claim to fame, go for it. And maybe just introduce yourself to the audience. You have to flip the switch.
Test. Hi. Hi, everyone. My name is Nicholas. I go by the handle Giraffe on Twitter. My story is I used to be an Air Force pilot from Singapore. I used to fly helicopters. Then I made the switch into Web3, did some dev work for a year. The long story short, the company got hacked, so I had to be let go. So then I got into security, did some contests, got some good results. Got into Spearbit as a JSR. Then after that, I joined Guardian as a full-time employee. So now I'm doing audits at Guardian full-time.
Hi, so I'm Madigan. You may call me Zig2 too. So I was a rare skill student back in early 2023, I guess, for the Solidity Bootcamp. And then I moved on to being an auditor in a security firm named Quarks Lab, but it was not that interesting in Web3 because there was no mission on it. So I wanted to have more fun, and competitions are really good because if you are good, you get good amount of money. So I just did that for a couple of months now, since January, basically. And so I'm now a security researcher at Spearbit and a fellow at Cantina. This is pretty much the same thing, but yeah, that's it.
Thanks. Thank you for having me. I'm Alex the Entrepreneur, first of my name, goat of code arena judging. Fun fact, I actually built the first version of the UI for Poly Market. That's how I got into the space. And then I decided to become a Solidity developer, built some smart contracts for Badger, more recently EBTC. And now I became a full-time independent security researcher. And I also launched my company called Recon, which allows to run invariant testing in the cloud. And some of you know me from the Daily Warden as well.
Cool, thanks. Whenever we have a panel like this, there's always a question like, how do I get into security research? But I think the answer pretty much is always, we'll just dive in and do security contests. In my experience, people oftentimes like, oh, this seems very intimidating. There's a lot of code here. I'm probably going to suck for a while. What would you tell to somebody in that position?
Yeah, my main advice is that best thing about security contest is the fact that you have a quick feedback loop. So many people have some imaginary criteria before they want to get started. And the best advice is to just do it and suck at it and accept that you're going to be bad. And if you do that and you actually try your best, then you have already embraced that path to mastery. And so for somebody that has never done it, the best thing is just go, know that you're going to get completely crushed, accept it, and then iterate from there.
Yeah, I'm 100%. I agree with that because that's what I did. And I would add that you have to do not overthink the audit. Like, you don't have to over-prepare. If you are not prepared, maybe you will be bad, maybe you will be good if you are lucky or whatever. But in any case, you will have the opportunity to learn what you have missed. And this is how you will get good. At first, you may be really bad, really bad. But if you are really bad, this is good because you are learning a lot. And on the next audit you are going to do, thanks to that feedback loop, which is pretty quick in most cases, you will learn, you will get the mindset, the attacker mindset, and the mechanism to find bugs, more and more bugs, and sometimes solo issues, because you have that mindset.
I think I have like two tips. One is like to spend more time understanding the code base rather than like finding the bug. So like an extreme example would be probably like spend 80% of the time actually understanding it before you even try to find a bug. And usually as you're trying to understand the code base, the bugs will form by itself, because if it doesn't make sense, then you have a bug. So yeah, so spend more time on that, because sometimes you can get very eager to find the bug. The other tip would be probably like, I think it's important to be resourceful and creative. I think that has helped me because I'm not the, I mean, I don't have a computer science background, so I'm not the most technical person, but there are a lot of resources. You got to think creatively, especially if you want to like find solo bugs, you know. So yeah, so being resourceful and creative is, I think it's like a general advice.
Cool. So one complaint that people have about audit contests, at least the one that's the most vocal, is about judging. So if you, a part of it, okay, let's just ignore the complaints where someone is submitting invalid issues and then complaining about it. So let's ignore that. But in cases where people at least seem to have a valid complaint, what changes do you think can be made to the current judging system that would make it better, or do you think it's a hard problem that's going to stick around?
I think it's a hard problem to solve, and different platforms have different approaches to it. I don't really have a good advice, but maybe I can share what we do at Guardian, because we technically have like a mini contest each audit, because we have a 2-team model. We after that we kind of like we get on a call, and then we trash things out internally with each other. We argue, and then the call can take like maybe 2 hours, and then we get everything sorted out. But I think that would be difficult to apply to the contest model. Yeah, so I don't really have a good the solution for that. Not sure if the rest have a better idea.
Okay, so I don't really like judging, and I had the opportunity to be a judge, and I had no time to do it, and I'm pretty happy with it because I would not like to be a judge. It's really difficult. Like, sometimes there is no good decision, and so we can see, for example, Sherlock has tried to move to more community judging, and it seems like they are going back to better another type of judging because it's not working. We see on Cantina that there are multiple judges, and so there are at least 2 judges in most cases, and if they disagree between each other, it's good, so they will solve it for you, and so they will most of the time take the right decision on the first try, and so you don't have to escalate. You may try it, some spammers will do it, but this is, as a security researcher, you should be good at finding bugs and not escalating issues or fighting with others to invalidate their issues and fighting for your issues. This makes no sense. It's just energy loss, and yeah, that's my thought.
Yeah, I think there's many problems with judging. So to keep it very short, the main one is the expected value of scamming the judge, as in forcing a mistake or getting a solo meeting, for example, through a particular clause based on the rules, or effectively by finding something that is argued into validity, is such an IEV strategy that creates these perverse incentives. And I'm not convinced that having more severities will solve that, because as far as I understand, there's this principle in psychology that once you give people a target, they're just gonna eventually find a way to game that. So it's almost like a cat and mouse game, where the only idea I have will be to somehow socialize those payouts, where once the issue is deemed contentious, it will be some sort of a pool. It's like, we appreciate it, but we don't want to incentivize it. Whereas everything else about judging can somehow be made fully mechanical, right? Spams can be quickly removed, and then high quality issues can really be erased. So I guess the silver lining that I found is that if you're a highly, let's say, an unlikable, highly, how do you say, abrasive person, it has high EV in winning the contest, but it tends to have low EV in maintaining customers. So it kind of balances out if you play the long game, whereas if you play the short game, unfortunately, there are too many incentives to be an asshole, because it's a winning strategy for now.
Got it. Okay, so let's talk about, there's generally known to be 3 models in, if you want to do security research. One is participating in contests, being solo, or being part of a firm. What are your guys' high-level thoughts on that? No specific direction in the question. Okay, so if you want to do security research, there's three things you can do, which is solo, be part of a firm, or participate in contests. What are your thoughts around that? How should people approach it? I mean, obviously you're limited by the choices that are given to you, but should people be trying to pursue different one of those three over the others based on what their preferences are, or what advice would you give to someone?
Okay, I think that you should try to everything to see what fits you. If you are more a competitor, you will enjoy competitions. That's my case. I know that I don't like bug bounties that much because I don't know. I don't feel the pressure. Like it's less fun for me. And I like having private audits because competitions are really, really energy draining. So having some private audits where you can work with the client in collaboration. This is not really the case in competitions. So when you can work with them, you can just bring more value to them, and it's just difference.
Yeah, generally speaking, I think, what I've seen is that if you combine elite researchers together, the joke is, or the way of saying is 1 + 1 is not equal to 2, it's equal to 11. So there are great examples of great team-ups in the history of this type of research. An example was Trust and Zach or Radiant Labs. You have great people that on average will be top 5, let's say, but they're able to be consistently even top 1 because of combining forces. What I also found personally from working with Spearbit and in other scenarios is that I can build my own workflow by working solo. So the grit, the ability to maintain focus, the good habits, you build them yourself. But once you have done that, if you work with other people, you'll quickly catch their tricks, their perspective, etc. And so it tends to amplify learning quite massively.
Like how I see it is, I think I see the bounty hunters as a different class from the other two. I think they're like a really special breed. Like you'll be able to find something that actually breaks in the wild, and be able to, it's not like a theoretical medium finding that you typically get in a contest. So I think that's a special route, and I think you also have to be pretty financially secure to go down that route, because you could not get paid for months and then you get one big payout. Personally, I wouldn't be able to deal with that. So maybe if you're very financially secure, you made it, then maybe that's something that you do just purely out of passion and like drive. Then between the other two, the contest or the solo one, the way I see it is like if you care about building your own brand, you care about getting clients, you like the whole process of the business, maybe the solo audits work. But if you just want to find bugs, get paid, not lose sleep over whether your clients are going to be hacked after that, then the contest actually is the best approach. More independent, less worry. Yeah, that's how I see it.
I see. So I remember, I think it was roughly a year ago, maybe like 10 months ago or something, there was this meta that went around on Twitter where content is just the superior model because you have more people who are looking at it, they have stronger incentives, and look, these contests found bugs that were missed by traditional audit firms. But I think all of you guys are participating in a firm in some capacity. So how do you respond to that objection?
That a contest is better? I guess like a shameless plug here would be to share Guardian's two-team model again. You get a bit of both, right? Because I guess sometimes you could argue that in a like a firm audit or sole audit, the incentives are maybe not completely aligned. Like, what if the auditor decides to he's tired or he takes a break and he doesn't just put his 100% effort into it. You never really know, right? So I guess by combining the two models together with a little bit of incentives for the auditors to really give their best, that's where like the Guardian model kind of shines. We really go up against each other, and it's usually a very close fight. But yeah, in general, I feel that there's a place for both. It depends.
Yeah, I think there is definitely a place for both because, like, if you are a project that is not that interesting, or you do not offer a big payout, then there is multiple contests in parallel, it is likely that you will have security researchers that are not that good and do not commit to your code base, so the global coverage on your code base will not be that much. And we saw that, like, I can give an example myself. 3 weeks ago, I started an audit, and the code was not fun to audit. Like, it was really annoying. It was written in another language and then translated to Solidity, so really unreadable. And after 3 days, I said, okay, I found some issues, but ciao, I'm going to another contest in which it's really more fun. And it was. So, yeah, I guess having some private audits forces some auditors to get to it. But yeah, at the end, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and maybe I also helped popularize the narrative that contests were a superior model. And for me, the most important thing is that you actually evaluate the value that you get out of a contest. So what I did, for example, when we did the EBTC contest, which I recommended and then the badge ended up purchasing, was I also followed up with every researcher to ask them how much time they spent on the code. And so on average, they would spend at most half of the time. And so that's something to consider, that potentially you're not always getting what you think you're getting. So I think it's more of a formula. But I think a couple of years ago, when there were a lot less options, contests were a clear winner, especially to find early talent. So one of my humble brags will be having met Holterus. He used to be called Arlie the dog. And he was an extremely talented researcher, extremely talented now. And but we will be able to pay him way less because he was undiscovered. So I believe contests are still the best way to source new talent and new ideas. But at the same time, you have to have an holistic approach. So they're never a silver bullet.
Got it. Let's see here. Where was I going to... So as part of having a firm, so whenever I ask people how they get customers, they usually say word of mouth. So as an alternative to that, how do you, there's so many protocols going on, not all of them are necessarily like active on Twitter, so you can't just go up to them and ask and say, hey, do you want an audit or something? So besides word of mouth, what channels are there to acquire customers?
Yeah, I'll give my 2 cents there, but something we tried, which is extremely high close rate, but extremely low, extremely high effort as well, is to basically find a bug in any code base and reach out to them when you have a code, when you found a bug. So in our case, we will run most likely some invariance. We get a repro. We're like, okay, we found something. Do you guys want to see it? And obviously, you skip everything because you qualified yourself as the expert. You have something that is valuable. And so from there, every conversation is a bit easier.
I'm a bad example because I don't did any of that, but yeah, the only thing that I had was word of mouth, as you said. But I guess as a security researcher, if you specialize on a certain type of code bases, like I know some people that are, I don't know, for example, just specializing in lending protocols or AMM protocols, and then it's still word of mouth, but you have built a reputation that goes out, even out of Twitter, and you can have some clients like that. So this is a good lead to follow, I guess.
Yeah, I think it starts with like proving that you are competent, and so like I think I've heard of people who have won contests and then got hired back again to continue doing more audits for the firm. I guess you could even say the same for like bug bounties. If you find a bug bounty in the protocol, they're probably going to look for you because they know that you know it intimately. And personally, I think a good Twitter strategy is also important. Learning how to write better and get the reach. I'm personally trying to improve on that, and I think that those are good ways to get more clients.
You brought up specialization, which is an interesting thing I wanted to ask about. Because someone literally walked up to me yesterday and asked about it. What is the expected value of? I'm really gonna double down and become really an auditor in this specific area, but he was worried about I could pick the wrong thing, or it could have a payoff. How would you? This is a question for all of you. How would you think about the trade-off of specializing versus going broad?
I personally, I think it's important not to be too spread out. Like for me, I personally have like a preference towards more like DeFi stuff. But at the same time, don't go too narrow. Like you just say like I only do lending protocols. Then you're kind of like restricting yourself. I don't really personally. I didn't like set out to do it. I guess I just did a few different things and then found my niche, found what I enjoyed, what was natural to me.
Yeah. So for me, the first criteria is having fun. So I did not specialize in anything. So I'm trying to break optimism, and the day after Uniswap, and the day after Omni across chain messaging, and the day after a node implementation. So I like to keep this attacker mindset and apply it on every type of code bases. But I know that I may have more value if I specialized in something. And that's it.
Yeah, from a marketing perspective, I mean, I would just ask the room, what do you think of when you think about layer 0? And I think most people will know the answer. And so it's just so convenient, right, to pick one. But from a more nuanced perspective, I think it's also about burnout. A big issue that I see with contests is that if you only do contests forever, you're basically relying on that adrenaline rush, and you're expecting that it's going to refill constantly. Whereas if you do audits, it feels like it's like a massage. Like it's less stressful, it's more reliable, it's constrained, and so sometimes it doesn't always have to be hard, right? So I think once you suffered enough, you realize that if you even if you're not going to specialize in only one thing, you still can sell each thing separately, and by doing that, you're going to just have an easier time.
Okay. Let's talk about that being energized in burnout. What kind of protocols like energize you to audit, or maybe not protocol? I mean, just in an abstract sense, that anything you're auditing leads to burnout versus leads to being energized.
Yeah, I think to be quite honest, the most energizing thing is to land a new customer. They have a high trust, high expectation, so you have to deliver, and so that's great. And I think the thing that burns you out the most is when it feels like you're climbing a muddy hill. So either there's too many bugs and the thing is entirely hopeless, and so you're like, bro, you gotta slow down. It doesn't matter if we work that much because the entire thing has to be rewritten. Or when effectively a customer kind of doesn't care. So it feels like you're just rubber stamping. So I feel like that's the enthusiasm, and also the fact that you feel like you are on the up and up with your customers.
Yeah, I kind of agree, because it's really energizing when you are working with a client and you are just going forward with him, and you are bringing value, and you feel like he gets that value and he acquired it and he can make a new step with that knowledge that you give him, and it's really cool. And on the other side, something that is really energy draining is in competitions, like all the judging. It's judges will lose energy, security researchers will lose energy. So yeah, that's a thing for me. And if we are talking about protocols and like type of protocols, I personally prefer to audit infrastructure stuffs. I don't know, like it may be due to my cybersecurity background, but I love that. And on the other side, all things related to DeFi, like AMMs and lending protocol, annoys me a bit. I still do it because I love to, even if it annoys me a bit, I like it. But I need to find a certain balance between these two.
Yeah, one thing I learned over the last few days at DSS, talking to some of the auditors, is that the feeling of burnout can be real, because like there's a lot of FOMO, there's a lot of pressure. It's easy to feel like there is too much leaving on the table. So I think that affects everyone. So I think it's important to be aware of that. Personally, for me, like I get refreshed when I find like creative, interesting bugs, and I learn something new. I feel like I'm growing as a auditor because I'm improving on my skills. I'm not just putting out repetitive bugs. So when the protocol is, somewhat complex, there are nice bugs to find. It's not basic stuff. I tend to enjoy that.
Got it. Okay, last question. So besides rare skills, what do you personally currently read or consult when you're not auditing just to learn things? And besides Twitter, because everyone uses that.
I personally haven't been spending as much time as I should be, like reading more stuff. But I guess I learned a lot at Guardian from like reading my other teammates' findings. So we have a very, very, very tight feedback loop. Immediately after an audit, you get to see what bugs you missed that the other team found. I do that. I put it in my I have a note repository where I categorize the different types of bugs and I just store them there so I can save them. So I put certain notes on it. And I guess so when something is interesting, I'll probably go and read up more about it. More often than not, it leads me to a rare skills article. But that's how I've been learning.
I like sometimes to read Medium articles from random guys talking about security most of the times. And when I used to work in cybersecurity, and there is the Hacker News blog in which there are multiple news about anything related to security and stuff like this. So this is really cool. Like we can follow, for example, some time ago there was the CrowdStrike, not hack, but issue in which they killed almost all Windows in the world, all Windows that were using CrowdStrike. So that was really fun to follow, and I like this type of content.
Yeah, if I were to recommend a website, it was rect.news. But from there, I'm gonna, give a word of advice, and it's to learn to reverse engineer. So what I typically do when there's a hack ongoing, I just paste the transaction hash on Falcon, and I just reverse engineering. And I think when you can do that, you can never run out of content.
Cool. Thank you, everyone, for joining. We'll wrap it up here. Really appreciate your time. Thanks for the insights you shared.